Hello everyone and welcome to a very special episode on ET Now, Budget Campus. We at ET Now are monitoring the budget very closely. Come the 1st of February, and not just the big investors and market participants, but the common man is going to be affected by the budget. So we want to know what exactly the pulse is from GenNext and what exactly the outlook is for the budget in terms of expectations by the young minds of today. So what better place than the fantastic campus of the SP Jain Global right here in Lower Parel, Mumbai. So we're going to find out from the students of the Executive MBA, Financial Technology, as well as the undergrad students and faculty members, what they want to hear from Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on the 1st of February. We'll have to find out whether or not taxes and budgetary allocation is part of their classroom, or should I say, canteen conversation. Let's go across to the Learning Center and find out. So here we are in the Learning Center at the SP Jain School of Global Management to find out what exactly is on the budget wish list. So let's start off with a faculty member as well. We have Mr. Vikram Pandey who is joining us. So sir, start off, what exactly is it that you're looking for in this budget? Because this is going to be the last budget of the current government, lots of hopes riding on it. What's your expectation?
Sure, thanks. So first of all, there are a couple of things in my mind because I had FinTech program at SP Jain. So as a FinTech faculty, I actually see that government is really working towards some regulatory framework to work with cryptocurrencies and multiple things which are related to FinTech. So I personally see something related to cryptocurrency coming up in this budget. And then there are multiple factors like startup ecosystem. Of course, we need to provide some encouragement to them. And because of that, there are certain rules and regulations required to speed up that process. So government is working on that, but it's still not up to the mark. The next point which I would like to add is that end of the day, you have multiple tax breaks and everything, but it is not yet that much utilized by startups, mainly because the framework is not properly maintained. And the last part is Startup India as a campaign which they have started. So again, people are not able to take advantage of that, and I would like to see more reform coming into that space as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up actually, because I think, you know, the startup community had really campaigned for this in terms of abolishment of the angel tax. Is that something that you would likely to be seen? Because they were clamoring for it.
Right, so there are issues as well. I'm saying that taxation part, people were taking some leeway around that, so there were misuse cases earlier. So that's why they are working at the right framework. I will say that, of course, they cannot abolish everything, but they have to look at right way to tax. And that's the framework. So if you do something logical, I'm sure everyone will be agreeing to that, and there will be no resistance as such from even the startup community.
What do you want to see for cryptocurrencies? Because right now there's so much frenzy over there, but I know that the government has been fairly categorical in saying that it is not a regulated currency.
Right. So look, they are very clear. End of the day, cryptocurrency is something which is new. Even the world leaders are also thinking in terms of what should be done in terms of taxability, in terms of structure around it. So I personally believe blockchain as a technology is really good, and blockchain is something which is here to stay. But cryptocurrency is one of the use cases, and I personally believe that cryptocurrency should be unregulated as such, but you need to have cautionary notes around that. So that's what RBI has been doing. We have 3 cautionary notes around that. But we need to have a framework around ICO. Okay. ICO is similar to your security issuance, right? So we need to have proper framework around ICOs so that people are not misusing that medium.
Okay. Interesting points that you've brought up. Thanks very much. So touching upon cryptocurrencies, how many of you guys are investing in Bitcoins? Oh, really? I thought we would see a no-show. What do you guys want to hear from the budget? Any expectations? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. So I think budget 2018 is going to be a really crucial thing for us. And my first expectation, I feel, which is going to be on common man's wish list, is going to be housing for all. I think housing should be made more affordable, especially after the implementation of the RERA Act. I think that should be one of the key things. Second thing, I feel infrastructure should be made a priority. There should be momentum in which things are being constructed. And thirdly, recapitalization of public sector banks, as what was announced in October, is something which I really look forward to.
Okay. Oh, yes, indeed. You know, you brought up some very valid points. Even when it comes to the overall real estate sector, we have seen that the government has been very forthcoming in steps like RERA. They have taken the initiatives, but I think a more decisive framework is what we would like to see. So a lot of thrust on the infrastructure sector. Would anyone like to talk about perhaps, you know, changes in income tax slabs or something else? Yeah, sir, if you could just pass on the mic.
Currently, you know, the income tax slab, the lowest one is 2.5 lakhs, which I think kind of defines who should not pay tax, which defines who's poor in the country, right? I think 2.5 lakhs is too less to define, you know, who should not pay tax. Me personally would like to see it go right up to about 5 lakhs.
You're hoping for a revision?
I'm hoping for a revision so that anybody who has a, you know, income less than 5 lakhs should not be paying tax. Other thing is, you know, senior citizens are really struggling because interest rates have gone down. So anything on the tax slab for senior citizens to compensate for that would really be helpful. I mean, it's really frustrating that about 3% of people pay tax in a country of 1.2 billion.
You know what you're saying, I'm sure a lot of people are echoing the exact same sentiment. I can see a lot of nodding heads here as well.
Of course, I mean,
it's a valid point.
As a working professional for many years, I'm sick of the only person paying tax.
Yeah.
You know, so the tax base has to widen to compensate for the SOPs that we have for people who are truly poor. So I think that's my view on the tax slabs, really.
Yeah, widening the tax slab, and even as you brought up, you know, the senior citizens, because they tend to put their money in fairly safe avenues, such as fixed deposits, such as mutual funds, etc. And you know, the lower interest rates are really hurting them. So I could see you nodding in agreement. Is that on your wish list as well, or what is it that you would like to hear from Finance Minister?
Yeah, sure. Two things. Siddharth spoke about largely on the individual side. I would like to see that what government has planned for reducing the fiscal deficit, which has been piling up for last 2 decades. I do not see any concrete plan from the government in last 5 that how do we really de-subsidize petroleum and other products so that in the long term we can pick up on GDP growth. That's the first point which I'd like to see, that what are the plan for curbing the fiscal deficit. The second point is government has launched and created a lot of pomp and show regarding the Make in India initiative in 2014 and 15, and based on that, the NDA government has taken a lot of lead. But we do not see a lot of action on the ground. So a lot of SOPs have been announced, a lot of liberal tax regime has been given, but what is the status on that? How do government try to properly add more to that campaign so that we are stopping import or maybe reducing the imports and we increase that domestic output? That's very, very important. And third thing also, what is the government take on current IIP numbers, which are very, very depressing?
So you're looking at the overall macro front and, you know, talking about, you know, and really the balancing act, and the government has been walking the tightrope for some time now. So that is going to be on the wish list for sure.
Thank you so much.
You know, if we could have someone as well talk about other sectors and what the expectation is, because, you know, be it auto, be it the pharmaceutical sector, all of that impacts us.
I would like to, you know, focus on the income tax part of it, and I have some very specific points that I would like to cover. There has been talk that standard deduction will be reintroduced. Now, standard deduction, if people remember, was only available to salaried employees, and what the gentleman said that, you know, 2.5 lakhs is very small. But now we look at the 2.5 lakh rupees from a standpoint of Mumbai city. But if you go to a small town, 2.5 lakhs is not a small amount. So I think the standard deduction that should come in should be indexed to a location, just like we have, you know, ready reckoner rates for stamp duty, where different areas have standard deduction of a different, I mean, they have different rates for different areas. So we should have something like that where the standard deduction is based on the location where the person is, and so that it takes into account the local cost of living. The second important thing is cryptocurrencies. Like Vikram said, cryptocurrencies have to be recognized as a force. So something to you know, regulate them, to clarify the stand, whether it's a commodity, whether it is a currency, whether it's a capital asset, is it trading, is it speculation, all that is very vague. Third very important part again is startup regulations. The regulations that were brought in to, you know, stop the misuse of certain provisions have actually ended up, and those misuse was probably by a handful of people and mostly from the political sector. Now here we have a host of startups which are facing problems because of that, and genuine problems. So that should be looked at. Third very important area is agriculture.
Yeah, I'm
We
so
have
glad
been
someone
hearing-
brought that up because,
Yeah.
you know, and the government has been talking about how they're going to thrust on that and there is going to be some incentives that will be doled out
I
here.
would
It's
like
fun.
to say it the other way around. There should be agriculture tax.
Okay, why so?
Because yes, there are a lot of farmers out there who are dying. Yes, but then if you see, majority of those farmers are landless farmers. But if you go to a place like Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, you have farmers with 100 acres, 200 acres of land who own Mercedes and BMWs and everything and pay not a single rupee of tax. I think that should be controlled. You could have a higher exemption limit, like you could have a 5 lakh exemption limit for agriculture income, but you need to tax the ultra rich farmers.
You brought up some very valid points and I sure hope the finance minister is listening to some
I
of
hope
those
so too.
points that you brought up. Tell you what, for now we'll slip into a quick break right here on the show. Stay with us. We come right back with campus budget right here at SP Jain Global in Lower Parel. Welcome back, tuned into Budget Campus. We're at SP Jain Global in Mumbai talking about what the finance minister should get up and notice, what the common man, what GenNext and what people really want to hear on the 1st of February. So we've spoken about the agriculture, senior citizens, we've spoken about the income tax slabs, the focus on the overall rural theme, as well as a lot of thrust on cryptocurrencies. Let's find out what else the youth want to hear. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to continue the point that Sir had raised about agriculture sector. What we have seen in last year's budget was that there was a lot of investment that they pushed for irrigation, which I think is not enough for the sector that we are looking for, because we need to have more production. What the farmers really face is that they want to reduce their cost of production and they want to increase their productivity. So I would expect some kind of programs or initiatives or investment on increasing the productivity for farmers. Also to encourage more youths to enter into agriculture. Today there is a lot of shortage in terms of labor. People really don't want to get into agriculture. So maybe we have institutes like IIT, similar to that we have something for agriculture in different zones of the country that would really encourage startups to come into agriculture as well. Other area that I really look forward is, yes, investment in infrastructure, but I would expect it to move outside of the major metros and to the smaller cities, because that would really reduce the load on metros and we'll have more employment in these tier 2, tier 3 markets. So the smart cities need to really pick up so that we see more investments and movement happening there. And yes, one of the most important thing that should be in the policy is to actually start monitoring and measuring the utilization of the budgets.
Absolutely,
That's
because you know
something
there's so
which-
much
yes.
allocation, but then execution and what really happens is
Exactly.
equally
So
important.
that is, there should be some policy, there should be some kind of, penalty that should be there for the states as well if the projects are not done on time. And lastly, I want to see something for alternative energy as well.
Oh yeah, you know, you guys have really done your homework, brought up some very crucial and valid points. But another sector, I don't know if anyone would like to talk about this, is that, you know, interestingly or unfortunately, the overall spend on healthcare sector is absolutely minimal in this country. So, you know, perhaps the thrust on the healthcare sector as well is something that we would watch out for. What about the backbenchers? Are there any comments from you guys? Was there anything that you would like to hear on this side? Yeah, go ahead.
Continuing for the agriculture sector, I feel that the fund for NABARD, that is the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, should be increased. That was 40,000 crore the last year, should be increased. I feel that Punjab, as Sir stated, is just a part of a country, whereas you look at Marathwada region in Maharashtra, where farmers have acres of land but still are committing suicide due to their debts because the crops are not being grown in a proper way. They don't know how to grow the crop. I feel that government should set up more institutions so that they educate farmers in the rural areas as well.
Farmer education
Yeah.
is something that you're
I
talking
feel.
about. Yeah.
And moreover, government should also start spending more on the tourism sector, as it provides 9.1% to our GDP. I don't feel government is spending
Doing enough
Yeah,
on
doing
that
enough for
front.
that sector also.
Okay, so it's spoken about agriculture as well as tourism as a sector which needs a thrust. So is there something you would like to bring up as well? What would you like to hear?
So I have a question actually on a different topic, which is household savings. Yeah. Now, that's an area of concern these days, and one of the things I think which is long awaited is, why not make the tax treatment for fixed deposits similar to that in mutual funds for debt? Today there is no incentive to put money, including their money by senior citizens, into fixed deposits because there's a TDS charge on that. What would happen if you made 3-year plus fixed deposits at the same way as you treat mutual funds? I think this would help promote, savings.
Such a good point that you've brought up, and this is something that we try to inculcate as well on the channel in terms of boosting of savings, which, like you said, not just for senior citizens, but for everyone. So the treatment of tax is something that you brought up that would be fairly crucial. What else is it that you guys would like to see on the 1st of February from the finance minister with respect to even additional sectors like auto, etc., or retail?
As far as the auto and retail is concerned, the major spending is coming from the salaried class when it comes to a proper retail from an FMCG brand point of view. So I'd like to see some new, I would say, schemes coming up for salaried people, where even if you are, let's say, a grocery shopper, maybe you could get some more incentive. Now, last year, if you saw the demonetization effect, a lot of people came into mainstream and digital payments. But where is the incentive now for that? And now I've come out of cash. I have made my payment to the merchant through a digital payment. He should be taxed. But where is my incentive for that? So I think that is something which I'm looking forward to. As far as the FDs is concerned, like the gentleman said that like a 3-year lock-in period. In today's world, I think the lock-in period of 5 years is just unjustifiable because 5 years is too long a period. So now if that comes down to a reasonable period like a 3-year, this will definitely attract a lot of senior citizens into the fold, and even the kids, like it can address a lot of their problem also. Like a kid can put an FD in his parents and lock it for 3 years. So I think it can work wonders. So small steps, but it can make wonders.
Yeah, you brought up some very crucial points, and given the fact that this budget has the backdrop of some very dramatic steps that have been taken by the government, be it demonetization, as you were talking about the overall cashless economy, as well as GST, that really brought about quite a bit of unrest, so to speak. But I just want to understand from here, since we spoke so much about demonetization, is this a campus, or are you guys groups of people who have converted completely to cashless? Is by a show of hands, if we could know that completely, a lot of conviction, completely cashless. And how does that work for you?
Okay.
Or your views on how demonetization as a move was?
See, in the last 1.5 years, we have seen two major financial sweepings, which was, one was demonetization in November 2016 and GST in July 2017.
Yeah.
So both of them have impacted the tax structure in a positive manner for the government. Now it is the time for the government to pay back. So when we say payback, when demonetization was affected, we all moved to a cashless economy. We all were only dealing either in cards or wallets or anything. When GST came up, it started a different tax regime altogether. Yes, there are certain challenges in GST, but then over a period of time, we'll definitely ride over it. So now is the time where government gives us a payback which says probably you have a better tax structure, we have a better tax rate. And this is the last full budget that this government will have. Next year, they would not have any opportunity to give SOPs in the budget because we have elections next year. So I think this is the last budget which the government has, and this is the right time where this couldn't be timed better than this.
Okay. Out of curiosity, how would you rate last time's budget on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best?
6.
6, okay. And I believe there were some comments as well from the back. What is exactly that you want to see in the budget?
Yeah, so this is the first time this budget is coming after the GST implementation and demonetization, and it is the last one before the March 19 elections. So this is what it is. For the direct slabs, first of all, my comments would be like, there will be two things. First is increase in tax slab or reduction in interest rates, and especially in section 80, if we can have some deductions, 80 in medical reimbursement, which is 15,000 as of now, that can be increased to 50,000. And in terms of education loan for a lot of students, a lot of youngsters, if you see, the limit is for 8 years. That could be probably increased to 10 years or maybe 12 years, seeing the cost of the education right now. In terms of GST, the government has done a fantastic job in having a multiplier effect and increasing the tax base. What the government has done, which probably we'll be seeing in this coming financial year. So let's hope for the best. Let's see what this government is going to bring and what best we can have it in this.
Absolutely. You brought up a very crucial point because you guys are in the education sector. Is there anything else that you would want to see? I'm just going to take a last comment on the education sector or on any other spaces. Yeah, we'll wind it up with you right in the front. Go ahead.
Just to touch base on the healthcare, as you mentioned, that sector requires a lot of effort. One point which is missing is the focus on advanced medical research. India has fought battles over leprosy, tuberculosis in last 50 years. Now we are almost a TB-free country. But look at the incidence of increasing cancer cases in the country today. We have good universities in India which teaches MBBS courses. I want the government to think about this time for giving good, solid budgets and a framework for advanced medical research so that we can create indigenous research, cutting-edge research and insights which really helps tide over cancer, because cancer is growing and the way we are looking to double our population in next 50 years, it is going to be an enigma to really come over with. So I think if government take positive steps towards creating a solid budget and a framework, that should really help the country.
Okay, so we've wrapped it. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just one comment on demonetization. I think besides financial measures which the finance minister, I think he owes the country and the world an explanation whether the demonetization exercise was success or not. Because I think there's still doubt, not only within India but outside. Because if the amount of money you estimated to be black all came back, it's just that you have converted your black into the new currency. And many people are not convinced. I mean, I'm sure it's been some benefit, but I think the finance minister, now that's 1 year after the demonetization.
So that's something you want to hear?
I want to hear an explanation. I want to hear a comment. I want to hear an analysis of whether that worked or not. I think that's something which he should include in his budget speech.
Yeah, that would be interesting, as to know whether or not that was a success or not. Go ahead, sir.
So last closing comment from my end as well. So as we know, India is a country of youth, and end of the day, the grassroots level education is not yet improved, and we need to have a proper technological education introduction in terms of multiple, let's say, blockchain, right? So blockchain, most of the people are not using for the creative purpose. I'm saying that blockchain is not cryptocurrency only.
Are you talking about more technology being implemented
Yes,
in the
I'm saying that, look,
sector?
when we are talking about multiple things like accountability, so when you are doing budget accountability, you need to bring that as a technological aspect, right? I'm saying accountability cannot be established if there is no transparency. So I think that Digital India is the key theme, and we need to have some subsidy towards research which is happening in this new emerging technology like big data, you have machine learning, all those things. So we need to have leading role in this new technology rather than, look, China is already way ahead of us, right? Sure. Russia is way ahead of us. So we need to identify the core areas where we need to have our own strength, and then we need to build upon that.
Okay, I think your students have rubbed off on you, or that's clearly your thought, because Digital India is, you're talking like a true millennial now. So let's just get a quick show of hands. How many of you are expecting a populist budget this time around? Is that what you think we'll see? Well, that's not majority, really. If you could just put your hands right up, so okay. And how many of you think that this time around we're going to see a budget that will be absolutely game-changing, that there's going to be big reforms doled out? Show of hands. None? You think we're going to, okay. A few hesitant ones. So I'm assuming that the rest of you think that it's going to be a no-show, pretty much the same? That's what the rest of you, okay. Great, guys. Thank you so much for having me here at the SP Jain Global Campus, giving us a real insight as to what you would like to hear on the budget. And I certainly hope that the finance minister is getting up and taking notice, because these are some of the very crucial points that the youth and that the citizens of today want to hear on the 1st of February. Thanks for watching.